Hey everyone, I know it's been a while that I made one of these videos, and I said I would, but I didn't see much interest, and so I was like, well, I don't know if anyone really wants to see these. This is the page I left off last time, but I decided, well, these are kind of more for me. I mean, if people want to see them, then that's great, but I should make these for me, not just for other people. I think I'm gonna make the video shorter. It's only gonna be around 10 to 11 minutes. But I'm trying to make it better and try to get through all these books because there's 3 more of these, and this is just the first one, and I'm barely through it. It is still got a lot left. So thank you for anyone that watches, and I hope you enjoy looking at me showing off these pictures from the Second World War and the little descriptions at the bottom here, which are hard to see, and I apologize for that. Okay, here, let me, there we go. We're just gonna do it like this. Yeah, that's way better. Okay. So we are here at June 1940. I almost said June 4th. Actually, it is June 4th because that's June 3rd. I don't know why they just didn't write June. Anyway. But this is the French defense against the Germans. But it didn't last. This is showing those guns firing, and I know a lot of people will point out these pictures. A lot of these aren't of the time that it was actually happening. It was usually recreations. Well, that's the First World War. Sometimes the Second World War, they would show real pictures. They have real pictures in here, but I'm gonna guess a lot of these are probably recreations. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't really know much of the history of this book. Or any of these books. I know that they are at least of the time. And this is showing the a huge artillery. I mean, there's a bunch of artillery here. There's 4 artillery pieces. There's probably more that are just not pictured here, but look at that cloud of smoke. It's crazy to think about the firepower these are having. And this is June 2nd to June 6th of 1940. And this is talking about the RAF over Germany. So the RAF bombing Germans, which they did. It's kind of forgotten about in the earlier times, but yeah, they bombed the Germans, and then were later, obviously, with the Blitz and things like that. But I'm sure we'll get to pictures of the Blitz here. This is just showing that in the Ruhr, bombing the Ruhr, as it says. This is showing a picture of the Battle of Paris, which is, as it says here, June 5th, 1940. The Germans are driving furiously. A furious drive on the wagon line. 500,000 infantry. The amount of people, obviously, that were pushing on France, this would have been, I think, it would have been a sight to behold, but yes, very terrifying, I would say, because the amount of just manpower, tanks, men, planes that were coming towards you, it would be probably deafening in its sound and definitely terrifying. I do not envy the French at this time. Up here it's saying Italy has finally declared war, and I know everyone always makes fun of the Italians, but this is a big deal. The Italians have, I think at this time, the biggest navy in the Mediterranean. And they have a sizable navy. Later, it'll probably talk about how the British crippled that navy, but the Italian navy was a real threat, and it was one of the largest in the world at the time. So this is a big deal. I mean, obviously, we like to make fun of the Italians because they didn't do so well in the war, which makes sense. It was more, the Germans were more angry with the people were more angry, so there were more harder fighters, things like that, and there may have been better commanders. I'm not sure. I couldn't say. While yes, the Italians didn't do well, if the people aren't in it, no army is going to really do that well, because You need people that are driven to do it. People that aren't really driven to go and fight, which is the case, I think, with many of the Italians, aren't going to do as well because they have no drive to do it, which it makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, this is a big deal, and obviously it says Mussolini's stab in the back ceased the non-belligerents. Declared war on both Great Britain and France at the time, obviously, because that was the only two allied powers. Well, there were technically more, but yeah. Hailed the Deuce's choice as of the blackest hour in France as a stab in the back. Was it really a stab in the back? Probably not. I'm sure everyone kind of figured it was coming, but paint it to the Americans as a stab in the back. That's a big deal. Could help push us into war, which it didn't, but could have. If it did, it would help explain it. This is June 11th, 1940, and it's Mussolini watches his war bird soar. Italy's Deuce. This is him. There he is. There's Benito Mussolini. And there's his, well, as it says right there, his staff officers. And they're watching his planes attack the French, which at this point, I mean, like, there's not really any point, I feel like, for them to attack. France has fallen at this, not yet, but France has fallen. It's not going to survive here. But it might have done, right here. The RAF gets distracted by him. That is a big deal. It helps distract them, which, from the Germans, so who's to say what that does and what that doesn't do. Now, this is a big map, so I'm going to zoom out here. This is June 5th to June 17th, and this is a map showing the Battle of the French capital. Now, it's hard to see, and it's harder even for me, but here's Germany, right here. And then this, I'm trying to find the line, but there's Luxembourg, right there. There's Belgium, and here's France, obviously. Here's this big old thing of France. This is the border, this is, I'm pretty sure, right here, the Maginot Line is what they're showing. Right here is the Maginot Line. Obviously a great defensive structure, but didn't work. What it's showing, or what it's trying to show, is the Germans wrapping around here and pushing down and also pushing out here. It's showing, let's see. It's showing the actions like this. We have these dots, these brick lines, and things like that. But I will say, this is hard to understand. So there's June 14th, as it shows right there. Okay. And then here's June 17th. The Pas de Langres, I think that's what, the Plateau de Langres. The drive on Paris, yeah. And this is just a big map showing the German advancement from up here to down all the way right here. And circling the French here. Yeah. And that's basically the end of the French when that happens. Here we have June 14th, Paris occupied. The Nazis enter Paris. What a sad day for these people, I'm sure. Many of the French. Which makes sense. The swastika flies over. Once again, June 14th. Paris is controlled by the Germans. And here's more of the people watching in probably sadness and horror as the Germans walk into their capital city. Ooh, give me 1 second. This page is stuck. Nope, it's not stuck anymore. Okay. A new BEF leaves for France. June 15th, 1940. More British troops to France aid. Yep. they're sending more, but I'm going to be honest, at this point, there's probably not. It's BEF, by the way, anyone that doesn't know, it's the British Expeditionary Force, which is what they would call their people that they're... But a fortnight before, had escaped from Dunkirk. Yep. This is a hopeless situation at this point. But who knows? June 15th, 1940, the U.S. citizens recalled from Britain. So, obviously, during this time, there are Americans in Britain, and they're called back. They're like, this war is getting out of hand. So they expect, well, right here, blitzkrieg on Britain. So the American government urges people back, saying, hey, get the hell out. It's not a good situation. And people flee, which, is understandable. France asking for an armistice, so it's just, it's a hopeless situation. June 16th, right there. France gives up, as it says. Paris has fallen, the collapse of France followed. So they ask for an armistice, and, it's a very sad day for them, I'm very sure. The dictator returns to Munich, June 17th, 1940. Using the Spanish dictator, Francisco Franco is a mediator, which is funny to say because Francisco is also, as many people probably know, he's a fascist as well. He doesn't get into the war, just like Spain doesn't get in the war in the First World War, which is very odd because, they're a big European power, and so people would think that, but they don't. And they don't get into this war either. And now I'm gonna say that was probably smart on Franco's part. I think there's no place where the Axis win this war. So if he would have joined on their side, it would have been bad for him, let's say. But yep. Hitler, and right there's Hitler, obviously. There's Mussolini, as it says, driving through Munich. The Tommies leave France again, June 18th. The BEF leaves. They made their way out. They escaped. Oop, I dropped my phone. Sorry. They escaped and went back home. Which, good for them. That's really lucky. If they didn't, that could have been, who knows, it could have been really bad. June 1940, just showing a picture of both Hitler and Mussolini. Just, they're not really, looking over anything. I mean, obviously, Hitler's in, the battlefields of what is France, I'm assuming. And I don't know where Mussolini is. He's just kind of driving around, I think. He's just having a time, I guess. They gloat over France, though, yeah. After France falls, the Germans show their leaders walking through, yes, we have conquered the French. The poor French. What is it? Compiègne, the stage set for the humiliation of French. Of the French. End of the French Third Republic, as that says. Now, I'm sure everyone knows this. This car right here that they're showing in this picture is the same car that the armistice of World War I was signed in. And obviously, many Germans were mad about that at the end of the war. They felt humiliated. So, they do the same thing here. They have the French sign the armistice in that car. And then I believe it may show it. No, it doesn't. But what happens to this car? Hitler I believe, has it either blown up or burned down. Yeah, he destroys it because, well, screw them. He wasn't too happy about the damn thing. Here's the terms of the armistice. So I'm sure many people that know anything about World War II know this very well. This is France, and then here's Vichy France. So the Germans want to control all of this, and then this is what the French get left. Vichy France right here. As it shows right here, part occupied by Germany, a bit dark. And then part demilitarized. So here's a little demilitarized zone right here. Not very much. And then naval bases right here. I believe is what that's showing. I don't know. That's Brest. Yeah. Germany occupies over half of France. It says half. It's definitely over half, though. Because, like, obviously this little bit right here. But, yep, they get these coasts for naval bases and for defense if the British try to come back over. Which, you know, later in the war, D-Day. That's June. This is June 21st, 1940. There's June 21st, 1940 again. French soldiers escaping into Switzerland. Which, you know, Switzerland at this time, they're neutral. I mean, everyone knows that. During the attack on France, both German and French or British planes would fly through their airspace and get shot down by the Swiss. But they get interned, or it says right here. In this bottom picture here, all these guns, these are all French guns. These are the Frenchmen. They're getting interned because they're not supposed to be in Switzerland. Switzerland doesn't want any part of this war. So any soldier that comes in has to give their gun up and has to be interned. Here's June 1940. This shows Australia, actually. Talking about Australia. Australia goes all out for the war effort. A pledge of assistance from down under. So, the British Commonwealth, to hold a final blow against has been dealt to Nazi aspiration. Yep. This is big. Having the Australians is... People don't think about the Australians as much, but that's a big deal. Especially in the Pacific War, when with all the Japanese stuff that goes on, having Australia there is a big deal. It's a close place, a nice base for, jumping off, things like that. Allied troops destroying the harbor at Brest. So the British Navy fires on. This is in, I think, it's well known. I think at this point they tell the British to go down, the British Navy, to go down and blow up the French Navy at Brest. And the French say, no, we won't let them take our guns and things like that. But they don't care. They don't want the French Navy being turned against them, so they go and blow it up. Now this is kind of a backstab. It's understandable that they do it, but it kind of makes the French a little mad at the British, which is understandable. They fire on people that were just their allies and sink a bunch of their ships. This is them blowing up a warehouse up here, as it says. But, lots of stuff just made useless. In Île Duches waters. Yeah. British supremacy in the Mediterranean. Now, I said earlier that the Italian Navy is a big deal, but obviously there's no navy like the British Navy, and they work to get full supremacy over these waters, over the Mediterranean. Here, It's obviously just showing ships shooting. But this one in particular is talking about them capturing a submarine.